Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've all testified earlier that you would be willing to have a lowered tax rate, and that it would be revenue neutral, and it would be could be revenue neutral. But in fact, wouldn't that put you in a position to ultimately make a higher profit and ultimately pay more money into the Treasury than you're paying now? I mean, isn't lowering the tax rate doesn't it have a dynamic effect, because it'll allow you to make more profit, and then ultimately over the years the Treasury will actually net more money because of the lower tax rate?
We would welcome the opportunity, through having a simpler system and globally competitive, to grow our company, to grow our profits, and as a result of that, send more money to the Treasury. And we think that's one of the opportunities that exist. You get us, U.S. companies, in their ability, their ingenuity, their entrepreneurial spirit, we're absolutely convinced we can compete and win around the world. And to the degree we do that, I think you're absolutely right. You have the opportunity to increase revenue.
I really think it's one of the fallacies of the static scoring system we have today, is the fact that it doesn't take into consideration the impact of repatriation into this country when you have a simplified tax system, when you have a territorial tax system, and the free movement of capital that will drive job creation here in the United States, that will drive investment here in the United States. And unfortunately, as the Congressional Budget Office scores tax reform, I think we miss that piece of the economic growth that's going to result from tax reform and simplification.
I mentioned earlier that Zimmer has grown as a consequence of being able to expand its operations overseas, and was able to do that in part by taking advantage of deferral rules. That's what enabled the company to prevail in a competitive bid for a European-based manufacturer. That several years later, our company is 4 times larger. The amount of pre-tax earnings that we produce is 4 times larger that we produced then. I mentioned that our effective tax rate is 30.6% as a consequence of paying about 40% in the U.S. and federal state taxes on half our earnings and 15% on our foreign earnings. So, in fact, we are paying more money into the U.S. Treasury as a consequence of being able to compete in that particular situation.
And I would say for Kimberly-Clark, and I suspect most of all the companies on the panel and business in general, we welcome the opportunity to compete on the basis of having the best product in the marketplace at a fair price every day. The less noise, the less uncertainty, the less leakage we have in terms of the resources we deploy toward innovation, toward manufacturing, toward driving efficiency and productivity, I think the better off we are. The more competitive we are, the more volume we drive, the more profit we generate, and that gives us the opportunity to generate. We're happy to pay more taxes for every incremental dollar of profit that we generate.
And do all of you have your compliance cost is significant, I assume? And would a simpler, a lower rate with less complex code, it would lower your compliance costs, of course. How about your costs to minimize your tax? I mean, every company incurs additional costs simply to minimize their tax rate, their actual tax, because the rate's too high.
Well, I think that's clearly all of us have tax departments. We have very talented people that understand the tax rules, not just in the U.S. but around the world. And I would tell you, at the end of the day, while it's a value to our share owners today to do this type of tax planning, it's not truly value added to the economy to do this type of tax planning. And I think we would all welcome the opportunity with a simplified tax code. Again, 19,000 pages will never go to 1. But to the extent that we can reduce complexity, reduce compliance costs, reduce the costs associated with trying to plan around what is a prohibitively high tax rate, is going to be a benefit to the economy.
I would agree. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis is recognized.